Hi guys, this is Tobias back again on the Man City Fan TV channel, and today I'm going to do a scouting report about the Bundesliga. But first I wanted to talk a little bit about the game yesterday, because I'm recording this one day after the Spurs Man City game, and it just was not a good performance by us, wasn't it? I've got the same feeling like last year when we were 3-0 down against Liverpool. It's just that feeling of, I don't know, we have to get something back and we have to perform on that day. We are in one goal behind starting into the game, and it's just, I don't like this. I mean, 1-0 is not as bad as a 3-0, we have to be honest, and we have the potential and we have the players to turn it around, but it's just that this gutting feeling, I don't know, it's just so disappointing, and the performance wasn't that good, and I think we could have done so much more. I don't want to criticize Pep because I love Pep and I love everything he does, but I think he got it largely wrong. But it's just, we started into the game like we were the worst team, like we were scared of them, and he kind of changed his system so that we have 8 players behind the ball when they were attacking. And I don't know, you can do that against Barcelona, but I don't think it was necessary to do something like that against Spurs. So, like I said, I don't want to criticize Pep. He's amazing. He's the best coach in the world in my opinion, but he's just got that one wrong in my opinion. Anyway, let's get on to the scouting report. And I've kind of constructed this that I'm going to start with the defenders, then I'm going to do midfielders, and then I'm going to do a few other players which stand out this season, but Man City don't really necessarily need. And like I said, I'm going to start with the defenders. First of all, I'm going to name about 3 to 4 players which, in my opinion, should be really good for Man City. I've kind of looked for kind of young players, so that we don't buy players in their prime, because everybody knows good players. I just wanted to get a few young players with a lot of potential, and yeah, that's what I've kind of been looking for. And my 3 center backs would be Niklas Stark from Hertha Berlin, then Jonathan Tah from Bayer Leverkusen, and Dayot Upemecano from RB Leipzig. And those 3 players, I mean, you probably heard about Tah because he's quite a regular German national player. Stark was in the Kader of Germany, but not really a starting player. And Upamecano is a really, really young player. He's only 20 years old from Leipzig. And he's got definitely most potential of all of them. He's got a lot of pace, he's very physical, and he can be a really, really good player in the future. But the other ones are 23, so still very young, but they're way more mature. Jonathan Tah is also a very physical player who's got who's got very good defending. Still quite fast, but not as fast as the other 2 guys. And Stark is probably the most technical gifted player of them 3, because he's not really the most physical guy. He's still very fast. He's kind of like John Stones. You can compare that to them. Niklas Stark is probably the same player as John Stones, so very technical, still very good at defending. Jonathan Tah is like Vincent Kompany, but in his prime. So he's very fast, like a very huge guy. Of course, he's not Vincent Kompany, I mean, but he has a lot of potential. He could honestly be a true leader like Vincent Kompany was like 3 to 4 years ago. And yeah, Upamecano is, like I said, the youngest person of them all, but he's got definitely the most potential. He's, like I said, so fast, so physical. He's also quite technical gifted, but not as much as Niklas Stark. And yeah, that's the way I would describe them 3. Then let's move on to the right backs and left backs. It was pretty hard to find a good right back or left back in the Bundesliga. I wrote a few down, but pretty much all of them wouldn't be starters for Manchester City. I have to admit that before. I wrote down Philipp Max. He's from Augsburg. He played a really, really good season last year. He was, he had nearly 20 assists in that season. He was amazing for them going forwards, assisting players. And this year, he doesn't play his best season, but he's still a very good player. He's only 25 years old, and he can be a really, really good player. But like I said, he probably wouldn't be a starter for Manchester City. Then we have Nico Schultz. He plays for Hoffenheim and he's a really good player. He's already 26 years old, but he's got a lot of pace and he would fit Pep's system perfectly. He kind of plays left wing back for Hoffenheim. He's got, like I said, a lot of pace. He's quite physical. His defensive ability is okay, but in Pep's system, the players have to be good going forward. And Nico Schultz is still very good defensively, but his strengths are definitely his offensive play. And then we have Klosterman, who's also a player for Leipzig, and he is definitely the player of them three who has got the most potential. He's only 22 years old, he's got a lot of pace, he's good in defending, and he's kind of still lacks in going forward, but I can honestly see him being a really good player. The only problem is he's a right back. And we already have Kyle Walker and Danilo, so we would probably prefer a left back, but I still wanted to mention him because I think he can be a really, really good player in the future. Yeah, like I said before, I will be moving on to the midfield now, and I've kind of specified to the defensive part of the midfield since we definitely need a Fernandinho replacement this summer. And the 4 players I wrote down are Florian Neuhaus. He's the first one. He's the most inexperienced player of them all. He's only 22 years old. He plays his first senior season for Borussia Mönchengladbach this year, but he shows a lot of potential. He already has, I think, 7 assists in the Bundesliga with 15 games played, so a really, really good player in the creative part of the midfield. His build-up play is awesome, but he kind of lacks in his defensive ability. But like I said, he's the most inexperienced guy, and he's definitely a player to watch in this position. Then we have Florian Krillich from Hoffenheim. He was already a contender for Manchester City. I remember that Manchester City were scouting him, but it didn't go through. I don't know why. He's 23 years old. He's very technical gifted, defensive minded. So he's a little bit slow, I have to admit that. And he's not the most physical guy, but he's very, very good in the defensive part. And finally, my 2 favorite players in the Bundesliga this season in this position are Maximilian Egestein and Dennis Zacharia. You can kind of compare them. They're both very good all round. But Egestein is a little bit better in the offensive part and Zacharia is better in the defensive part. Zacharia kind of has his strength in his physicality. He's a very big guy, 6'3", like I said, very big. And Egestein is very creative, technical, gifted, can go forward and often plays in the number 8 role for Werder Bremen. Whereas Zacharia plays, like I said, in the defensive part of the midfield, which we do actually need more than the number 8 because we have a lot of great players there. And this leads me on to my last section where I'm just going to talk about pretty much every position, whether City need the position or not. And the first person obviously is Lukayovic. I think everybody heard about him. He's awesome. Like he's a very, very good striker. He's only 21 years old. His left foot is as good as his right foot. He scores for fun. He's just amazing. But I don't have to tell you that because you probably have heard a lot about him. The second player is Milo Rashika. He's a winger from Werder Bremen. And we have a lot of good wingers, but I just wanted to mention him because he's still very young. He's like 22. He's 22 years old. He's very technical, gifted, fast. He scored a lot of goals this season. He has been one of the most important players for Werder Bremen because they have a really good season. And I just wanted to mention him, even though we probably won't be looking out for him because we have a lot of good wingers and he probably wouldn't play either because, like I said, he's still very young. And my 2 last players are both from Leverkusen, both in the pretty much same position. And these ones are Julian Brundt. You probably heard about him if you watched the World Cup, and Kai Haverts. Kai Haverts is, from all players I mentioned, the most young player. He's only 19 years old. He's definitely got the most potential out of all of them. And Julian Brundt kind of established himself already. He's played a lot of games in the German national team. He's also a starter for Bayer Leverkusen, whereas Haverts, he's a starter for Leverkusen and he played a game for Germany, but he's definitely not as mature as Julian Brundt. And also Julian Brundt can play on the wings. He played left mid this season at the start, I guess. And now he's playing kind of in the number 8 role, which we also, like I said, do not really need, but I just wanted to mention him. Julian Brundt is a spectacular player, one to look out for. And Kai Havertz, like I said, is the player with the most potential here. That was it. In the end, I'm just going to mention my favorites from every position. In the defense, between Stark, Tal, and Upemecano, it's really hard to differentiate because all of them are quite fast, technical gifted, and also physicality of them is very good. But I wouldn't go for Stark just because he's not really not physical enough for the Premier League. I would either go for Jonathan Tah or Upemecano. Upemecano, like I said, has the most potential out of all of them. He's very fast, physical. His defensive ability is kind of not as good as the other ones. So if I had to choose one, I would go for Jonathan Tah. He's a starter for Germany in the national team. He plays pretty much every game for Bayer Leverkusen. He's really physical. He reminds me so much of Vincent Kompany a few years ago. So he could honestly be a leading player in the Manchester City team, possibly a future captain, if you ask me. So yeah, like I said, I would go for Upamecano or Jonathan Tah in this position. Then right backs and left backs, it's really hard. If I had to choose one, I would go for Klosterman, but he also wouldn't be an instant starter, and he is a right back, like I said before. So left backs and right backs, the Bundesliga doesn't really have these good players in this position. And then in the midfield, you would honestly guess that, but I would go for Dennis Zacharia. He's amazing. He's all round. His build-up play is great. He has such a good physicality, such good defensive abilities. If I had to choose one, I would definitely go for Zacharia. And if we can't get him, I would go for Egestein. But definitely Zacharia is my most favorite player out of all of them. If I had to choose one player that we would sign, I would definitely go for Dennis Zacharia. That rounds it up. I'm still really disappointed by the Spurs game. I have to admit that. I was thinking about it all day, kind of thinking about what we can do in the second leg to go through, but that's a whole nother topic. And yeah, have a great day. Come on, City.